My phone buzzed with a notification that stopped my heart cold. The email from Margaret Hensley, the iron-fisted president of the Clearwater Estates HOA, was blunt. My private lake cabin, my sanctuary, had been selected for her exclusive VIP gala without so much as a courtesy call. My blood boiled as I read her words, laced with thinly veiled threats of crippling fines and fabricated violations if I dared resist. Margaret, with her polished smile and ruthless ambition, thought she could bully her way into my home. She had no idea what she was walking into: a cabin rigged with traps I'd installed but never used, a silent arsenal from my days as a defense contractor. This wasn't just about a party. It was a battle for the one place that still held the memory of my late wife, Clara. 3 years ago, I bought the cabin at Clearwater Estates, a gem nestled on the lake's edge with sweeping views of the water and mountains beyond. I'd poured my soul into renovating it, blending rustic charm with cutting-edge tech, a promise kept to Clara, who dreamed of this getaway before cancer stole her away. Her framed photo sat on my desk, a quiet reminder of the peace we'd planned here. That morning, as I sipped coffee and worked remotely, the HOA's email shattered the calm. "Your cabin has been selected to host the welcoming party for the Thornton family," it read, citing some obscure Regulation 12.7 about community contributions. I scoured the bylaws. No such rule applied without a community vote or emergency. Furious, I called the HOA office, only to be brushed off by a secretary reciting a script about the honor of hosting. When I demanded voting records, she stonewalled me, claiming they were internal. My anger surged. This wasn't just an overreach. It was a violation of everything I held dear. I drove to the HOA office, a sleek building that screamed self-importance. Inside, Margaret's office was a shrine to her ego. Plaques lined the walls, and her oversized desk loomed like a throne. She greeted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, her manicured hand extended as if I were a guest in her domain. "Mr. Bennett, how nice to meet you," she purred, dismissing my protests about the lack of a vote. "The Thorntons have ties to the state senator. Their goodwill is vital to our community." When I pushed back, her tone turned icy, her voice dropping to a whisper the secretary's phone wouldn't catch. "Refuse, and the board might find some code violations at your cabin. Costly ones." The threat hit like a punch, stirring memories of powerlessness, of failing to save Clara. I left, her words echoing, but a fire was lit. Clara's final words rang in my mind. "James, don't let anyone trample what we've built. Fight for it." Back at the cabin, I confided in my neighbor, Sarah Mitchell, a sharp-witted teacher who'd seen Margaret's tactics before. She leaned against my car, her voice low. "The Parkers refused her last year. Within months, they were buried in fines, petty stuff like fence height or mailbox color. They sold at a loss. Guess who bought their place through a shell company? Margaret's husband, Charles." My mind raced. This wasn't just personal, it was a pattern. I opened a dusty filing cabinet labeled Project Horizon, relics from my old job designing non-lethal defense systems. Clara's last letter sat inside, her handwriting urging me to protect what she'd left behind. That night, I unrolled the cabin's blueprints, wrestling with the idea of turning our haven into a battlefield. But Margaret's arrogance, her disregard for my home, for Clara's memory, left me no choice. I spent days researching Colorado law, confirming HOAs couldn't seize private property without consent, and that my surveillance systems were legal if clearly marked. My lawyer friend, Mark, vetted my plan, ensuring my traps stayed within bounds. I rigged the cabin with precision: LED panels to project a fake HOA meeting exposing financial misdeeds, a low-frequency sound system to unsettle nerves, climate controls to crank up the heat, hidden cameras with legal notices, screens to display shady HOA expenses, and a fine mist sprayer for targeted chaos. The master bathroom got a sensor-triggered surprise, uncomfortable but harmless. Sarah offered to run systems remotely, her tech skills honed by her late husband. Charles, Margaret's husband, seemed uneasy when I saw him at the coffee shop, mumbling apologies for her forcefulness and hinting at her obsession with impressing the Thorntons. His slumped shoulders told me he was trapped in her world, too. The day before the party, Margaret's team arrived for a walkthrough, barging in with demands to move my custom bookcase and hide Clara's keepsakes. My jaw clenched as they tossed her handcrafted memory box into a trash bag. I watched via cameras, cataloging every slight, every careless act. They left, promising improvements to make my cabin worthy. I activated my traps. When they returned the next day, Sarah and I monitored from her house across the lake. Margaret used a key-eyed rig to trigger the systems. As she ordered my bookshelves torn out and Clara's photos hidden, I hit the first trap. A low hum filled the cabin, too subtle to pinpoint but enough to fray nerves. Margaret snapped at her team, her composure cracking. Then I nudged the thermostat up. Her designer blazer clung to her sweating frame, but she denied the heat, barking orders as her team fidgeted. When she tried to force open my locked office door, claiming it for catering, I unleashed electronic beeps, hinting at sensitive equipment. Doubt crept into her eyes. I walked in, feigning surprise, and pointed out the thermostat malfunction. When she threatened violations, I calmly mentioned researching HOA laws, planting seeds of unease. Her property manager, Henry, whispered to me later, "She's not following protocol. The financial numbers don't add up." He slipped me a folder of falsified meeting minutes and questionable expenses, a goldmine of evidence. Party day dawned bright, but the air crackled with tension. From Sarah's, we watched guests arrive, board members, locals, and the Thorntons, a polished couple radiating old money. Margaret played the perfect host, claiming my cabin's view as her own. I raised the temperature again. Guests loosened collars, fanning themselves, while Margaret, sweating through her suit, blamed my substandard systems. When someone complained, she herded everyone to the deck right into my next trap. A fine mist sprayed from the pergola, dampening dresses and suits. Guests fled inside, Margaret's hair frizzing as she laughed off mountain weather. Then the living room TV lit up with HOA financial records $30,000 and administrative supplies glaring in red. Board member David Carter snapped photos, questioning the numbers. Margaret fumbled with the remote, calling it a glitch, but the damage was done. The LED walls flickered, projecting a fake HOA meeting with board members discussing falsified records. Gasps filled the room. Then the audio kicked in, Margaret's voice sneering about the Thorntons' atrocious fashion and desperate social climbing. Elizabeth Thornton stood, her face ice-cold. "I think we should leave," she said, her husband nodding. Margaret's pleas fell flat as a guest recorded her meltdown, whispering about viral fame. Desperate, she pushed everyone to the dining room, but the screens there showed her team mishandling my belongings, captioned with my name and private property. David demanded, "Did you get permission for this?" Henry, emboldened, admitted Margaret's habit of bending rules, even hiring private investigators to dig into residents. Charles, half-drunk, confirmed, "She keeps files on everyone." The room erupted. David called for an audit. Others seconded an emergency meeting. Margaret shrieked, blaming me, claiming I was watching. I hit the final trap. A targeted mist drenched her, ruining her outfit and dignity. Guests stifled laughs as she flailed, makeup streaming. Elizabeth Thornton's voice cut through. "Is this how you treat neighbors?" David revealed my emailed evidence of falsified minutes and financial misconduct. Charles, breaking free, declared, "I'm done covering for you." The board voted Margaret out on the spot, promising me compensation. She stormed out, soaked and defeated, Charles trailing behind. Weeks later, Clearwater Estates changed. The HOA paid to restore my cabin, and new rules protected homeowners. Margaret and Charles sold their house and left, his apology note thanking me for exposing her. I hosted Sarah, David, and others on my deck, toasting to a freer community. Alone later, I sat on the swing Clara loved, the lake glowing under the sunset. "I kept our promise," I whispered, feeling her presence. My phone pinged an email from another homeowner facing an HOA tyrant, asking for help. Clara's letter, soft from years of handling, sat beside me. Maybe my traps could protect others, too. Justice, it seems, thrives in the shadows, striking when the powerful least expect it.